what's going on, guys? It is Thursday afternoon, kind of late at night if you can't tell. We got a spotlight out here. And last Saturday we went out wheeling at Rausch Creek. We went out with a few guys from fullsizebroncos.com. We had a guy on 42s and two of us on 43s, I believe, and we went and ran some trails. We hit a bunch of blacks, even a red going into Rauch Creek, and it was a blast. We had a lot of fun and the truck ran great. If you didn't see that video, I recommend checking it out before maybe watching this whole one. I'll put a little link up here maybe, if I'm that fancy, if I can figure it out. But now back to where we are. So before we went on the trails, I finished a couple upgrades. Some of them were up until like 1, 2, 3 a.m. the night of or the morning of when we're going out. So I'll cover them in this video too. And there's also a couple other big updates for the channel. One of the biggest ones I would think is picking up a trailer. So I'll plop in a little bit of showing that off now. I got this earlier this week. It's 24-foot next haul, deck over, rated for 14,000 pounds. So I thought it'd be great for the Bronco. Dual axle, standard ramps in the back, nothing too crazy. Brand new trailer, and it pulled really nice. I got the longer version because if I ever need to get a new Powerstroke with a 7.3 in it, I can put a full-size pickup on there, or if any of the Super Duties act up, we can fit them on there. So I thought a little bit longer would be better. All right, so I'm excited about that trailer. It towed great, and I'm happy to have it in the fleet. Now, what I want to run you guys through is some of the little bit of damage we got, and also a few of the upgrades that we just finished up. The truck did perform phenomenally. I'm really impressed by everything that went on, and there's a few little oddball things that I thought were kind of cool that ended up on the trails. So, check them out. All right, so first things first, you can check out the high steer. This was from Sky Manufacturing. They machined my knuckle and they put that arm, or I got that arm from them. I'm going to go and change out all this hardware to be universal, but I just had to do what I had to get it back out in the trails. Up to that pitman arm, and then I made a new mount and a straight track bar. I tied that right into the top of the, kind of like the spring perch, and that's pretty good. I think what I'm going to do though is that's a drop pitman arm. I'm going to get a less of a drop so that these bars are a similar angle. But for now, it worked out. Everything traveled good. Let's go through all the upgrades first, and then we'll move on to damage. See what you could spot out beforehand. We went and moved my front shackle hanger 2.5 inches forward. We welded on that part, and then we drilled the new hole. I still have to go grind it, do finish paint, but we had to get on the trails. Due to moving that forward, I had to lengthen my drive shaft, which is still kind of at its limit now that the truck's up here, just, hanging, the front axle's hanging. I'll grind now, clean that up, but we put in about 2 inches there. And, the drive shaft worked great. I do have to go and tighten it up a little bit. It came a little loose on the trails, I think. Some of the bolts started to back out, but that's what happens. Speaking of bolts backing out, last time I went out, my transmission mount, last time I went to Rausch, my transmission mount bolts backed out. So I was kind of worried about that happening again. So I bought a second transmission mount, and I fabbed something up to go tie into the back of the transfer case. You see up here, I got 3 bolts, one there, and one on the other side. It goes down to a transmission mount, and that transmission mount is tied into the cross member for my anti-rat bars. I'll show you more on the anti-rat bars later. And I think that more or less kind of covers the new upgrades. Actually, I missed on one other big one. I put the ARB in the front. I have the air line running up top there, you can see. I'm not going to show you the compressor. There's another video on that if you want to check it out. And then I got the chromoly axle shafts here. Moog U-joints. All of that went phenomenally well. We went into some spots where I thought I was going to really be slipping, and it just crawled right over without slipping, without even spinning a single tire. So that was really cool. Now let's get back up front and I'll show you some of the damage. So we'll start at the front and go back. There's a little wet out there, or really wet, so everything has a little bit of surface rust that got hit on rocks. And as you can tell, that's a few things. These U-bolts need to be swapped out. I think I'm going to go and change them out for ones that point up so they don't catch on rocks all over the place. I nicked this a little bit in the rocks. This cross member actually wrapped on me once. I think that got caught in a rock and it twisted, so I had to tighten it back up. This diff cover, self-clearance to be the same diameter, same size as the bottom of the axle. So that's kind of cool. This one's screw or bolt backed out a little bit, but it's not leaking. I'll tighten that back up, we'll be good. Here we have some more Carnage with U-bolts. Yeah, those will be replaced pointing up. And a little bit of contact here we made. So far, nothing too crazy. You look on the outside, even with moving that axle forward, we touched just a little bit and pulled up the piece of sheet metal, so I'll have to trim that. The rims had a little touch on the outside too, but that's to be expected. Moving on back, we're good except for that transmission. Well, that's a big one. We'll go and look at that in a second. Here we had our bolts back out a little pinch. They're loose, so I'll tighten them up, put a little bit of Loctite on them maybe. The transmission mount held up great. And then back here is our real damage. This Sterling 1025 really likes to hang on the rocks, and just a little bit of rubbing. So these anti-wrap bars almost acting like rock sliders and protecting the drive shaft, and I'm not complaining about it. They did a real good job. Hit the shock here a little bit, under the diff, enough that I loosened up the diff cover. I think I'm going to replace that with a rough stuff cover. I don't really trust that one. The shock got a decent hit, but this I think is my favorite damage of the weekend. That is a busted up brake drum. So that's a big chunk missing out of that one. And I think the reason it happened is because I'm running these wheel spacers and there's nothing to protect them. So it's just gonna end up happening when you play on the big rocks. They're not too expensive, not too bad to replace, so I'm not complaining about it. I just didn't expect to see it. And this one got hit too. So yeah, I got both of them in one trip out. Then going around to the back, we hit this diff cover a few times. I'm afraid of this braking, so that's why I want to get rid of it, upgrade a little bit. You can see we're leaking under there. I need to get another set of like keepers to keep these springs straight. They keep getting a little crooked on me. I almost need another one of those. Same on this side. But for everything else, we were good. The exhaust didn't get hit at all. That was from the first trip out, that little ding they see there. The shackle whacked on some things, but that's kind of expected. And yeah, we had a little touch on, I think the ground actually, the truck was so sideways. But we'll hit that with a little bit of spray paint, buff right out. So that's everything, except for the transmission. If you've been watching the channel, I appreciate that. But you've known I've talked about the transmission before. And last time I went to Rausch, it got hot. We've limped it along ever since. Well, there's no more of that. You can see that drip, that's actually transmission fluid. And that's coming out of there because the thing got so hot at the end of the day, I blew my front seal. Oil came steaming out and it was boiling hot. So I've got no more gears left. Well, there's no fluid left in it, but that's okay. I just ordered everything to rebuild and maybe even upgrade it a little bit. So stay tuned for that. And I think that's everything. I'm excited to have the truck up on the lift. It'd be nice to drop the trans out from here, clean everything up, power wash, do a couple little upgrades, and we'll be all set. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Subscribing to the channel really means a lot. I'm trying to grow, show off, some of this off-roading and cool stuff I think we do. And I hope you have a good night. Thanks, guys.